invite the speakers for the next session. Can OTT TV challenge traditional TV? First of all, Sunil Nair, CEO of Balaji. Abhishek Joshi, Head of Marketing and Analytics, Digital Business, Sony Pictures Networks, India. The next speaker will be Vivek Bhutyani, founder and CEO of Lattu Media. Welcome here. And Shreyas Rao, business head, news revenue, news Corp VC Circle. So, first of all, if we're talking about OTT TV challenging traditional TV, let's see how is OTT business impacting on traditional TV business today. I will ask Sunil to maybe tell us about it first.
Like I said in the morning, every platform has its audience. So, this whole assumption that OTT at any point in time is going to impact traditional television we're smoking something completely potent. If you're thinking that OTT is going to go and make a difference to television in any sense. Having said that, a whole bunch of movement is already visible. There are sufficient number of people who are moving away from traditional television. They are not in front of TV. They are in front of some screen, and it's up to this business to discover that audience and make the content available for them. I think OTT and television is going to coexist for a very long time. That 500-pound gorilla audience out there is not going to go away that easily. At best, if you were to triangulate any data point, number of credit cards versus number of wallets, number of internet connections, smartphones, so on and so forth, the sweet spot for OTT players in India is about 80 million, not more than that. It'll grow to 100 million if another 100 million people buy a Jio connection, but that still is smaller than that huge animal that exists out there. And I think we should just accept it and just coexist with them.
And Abhishek, how is our OTT influencing, even if it is to a little extent, the strategy of TV broadcasters, of channels? How is it influencing like India's strategy in terms of, like we see even Sony having contents which are being displayed on YouTube platform and other platforms like that, and you coming up also with your own OTT platform. So how are you basically being influenced by this trend?
Hi everyone. See, in my view, it's not an either-or strategy anyways. It's always, and it always has been and always will be a and strategy. Yeah. Fortunately, I am from an organization which owns both, which have strong inroads on traditional TV, and we also have an OTT platform. And our business model is slightly different from the other OTT players in the market. We believe, and we strongly believe, that our content is democratic. We treat the other platforms as only our distribution partners to increase the reach of the content that we are offering on TV and on the OTT service as well. Having said that, how do we differentiate between a OTT digital piece of content and a traditional TV content? The thumb rule that I have realized is whatever works on TV will always work on digital. That's the thumb rule. Otherwise, there was no reason why a popular show on TV will get you so many views on, say, YouTube. There are, in my opinion, there are about 29 OTT platforms in India that exist uh, in the last count. Now it is 30 with OTT alt coming in. Uh, how the strategy is not how to distribute it, but how to monetize it, how to increase your reach. We as digital entertainment platforms have still not able to crack that code yet. Yeah, all of us are experimenting. All of us are doing an AVOD, SVOD, freemium, premium, free. Whereas a traditional television has been in existence for the last 30 years, and they have cracked that code. We have been in existence for the last 3.5 years. That's the difference in time of existence.
And in terms of Vivek, in terms of the challenges for content acquisition, do you find basically a major difference going for OTT content, OTT platforms, and TV platforms?
So before I answer that question, on your count, you can add one more platform because we launched 6 months back. So Lattu Kids is India's kids-only focused OTT platform that I launched. Before this, I was with Star India. And I have slightly contrarian views to what these two gentlemen said. So I was trying to think of analogy on how do I compare a consumer who's watching on TV versus on the digital platform. And this is what kind of came to mind closest. This could be crude, but we all go to restaurants and there are times that we order a thali, right? There's a Rajasthani thali or a Gujarati thali. And you pay a specific amount of money for that, $300, $400. Now, in that thali, there are several food items, and at times, there are many items that you may not like. But you can't call the waiter and say, कि यार मेरे को ये दाल पसंद नहीं है, 300 में से पैसा काट दो. It doesn't happen, right? And that's what happened in the TV world. When a consumer is sitting in front of the television, he has those limited set of channels. And I have to spend 1 hour watching TV, I want to entertain myself. I'm going to give some impressions to each of these channels. Now compare that with a specialty restaurant where, let's say, I know that I get the best butter chicken in this specific restaurant, Bandra. And that kind of gives me control. When I go and order a food, the waiter knows my tastes. If the food is not good, he comes back and says, can I give you another dish? And I think that's what happens in digital. It gives me power as a consumer. It gives me control on what I want to watch. And therefore, it also becomes very, very challenging. So anybody who's completely pure into OTT business, I think he's crazy because it's very, very difficult on TV. Your one piece of content is kind of competing with, let's say, another 10 or 12 content pieces. But on digital, your every piece of content is competing with 1 billion other videos, right? So the content is very, very important. How do you differentiate that content? And the guy who likes your content really likes your content versus on TV, I don't know if he really likes your content. He's watching because he's watching in that 1 hour. So that's a primary difference from consumer perspective. It gives me a lot of control. It makes me empowered in terms of what I'm able to watch on digital. And therefore, from content producers and content aggregators perspective, it's important to kind of address what the consumer is kind of wanting. Now, so coming to your question on what kind of content acquisition strategy we follow, and taking from what Sunil said, what's happening is the change is visible, and I think the change starts from the audience that kind of is easy to adapt to digital. And from whatever I have observed, I think kids are something that are the first audience that are bringing the change. And it's visible. So if you look at the top 10 channels globally on YouTube, 5 or 6 are kids channels. Okay, the trend is similar starting in India. TV viewership on the kids genre has been on decline over the last 4-5 years. And I kind of factored this to the kind of programming that's there on TV, with the kind of fixed formats they have. I think they haven't done much. We have done a survey with parents where parents came and told us that we are not happy with the content our kids are watching. Okay, and therefore it kind of becomes responsibility on us as to what do we bring in terms of content. So as a platform, we have taken a stance that we would only bring content that is themed around learning and entertainment. So, and entertainment means meaningful entertainment. It doesn't mean slapstick comedy. It doesn't mean random characters who are fighting and falling on the screen. And so whatever content that we acquire is themed around those principles. And therefore, any consumer who comes on the platform on Lattu Kids, the kid and the parent knows that he is getting meaningful entertainment. So when he's giving the device or the app to the kid, he knows that the kid is watching something meaningful, he's learning something. So that's the theme of acquisition.
Okay. So, Shreyas, what value do you feel that news content bring to on OTT platforms?
So, I mean, just to add to the headlines of the topic, right?
Yeah.
Will OTT challenge or change the way traditional television plays out? Fact of the matter is, consumption habits of people consuming the content has changed and will change over a period of time. Will OTT replace traditional TV? No. But what they consume and how much they consume has surely changed, right? Now, to add to the news part of it, I mean, with Hotstar having a Republic live on the move. See, news and sports are the only two genres that require a topical feed. They need it real time, news, events, sports, right? We are already used to consuming news on RSS services way back, and now in multiple aggregated services, whether it's an InShots or whatever, your BBC and CNNs of the world have already moved to new media in many ways, whether it's their own OTTs, whether it's channels and feeds within even millennial social platforms like Snapchat, right? So news will find its way very organically into how it will be consumed in OTT, and will be focused, sharp focused to the kind of news I want to consume as an individual, because with data being thrown in on my consumption patterns on my device, right? It will throw in news that I want to watch. Even on an InShots, I can choose my news feed. I can choose markets. I can choose the kind of news I want to watch, sports, entertainment, and so on and so forth. So I think the larger discussion point would be how data on one end and consumption patterns or consumption habits, so to say, on the other end are changing. Because when you talk of consumption habits, from a family activity of watching the television together to unicasting it and watching it alone on my own on a smaller screen is what the shift is gradually, right? And on the smaller screen, essentially, if you get the audio right, you have a better experience than on a large screen.
Okay. Abhishek, regarding advertising revenues, has the OTT platforms actually, as compared to TV, provided some new perspective, new avenues for growth of advertising revenues?
See, to answer that, let me go back a little. The existence of content on TV was because of advertising and is because of advertising. Yeah, I mean, there are no two ways about it that if you don't earn from advertising, you can't make a piece of content on TV. How effective that advertising is, that is up for debate. I mean, I'm not even going there.
Yeah.
But before answering that, let me come to the thali example. Just because an specialty restaurant exists does not mean the thali restaurant will shut down. I will again say it's an either or strategy. And if you get a variety of 20 things to eat at 100 rupees, you don't mind wasting that dal. Yeah? That is exactly what is happening on TV. When you get 800 channels for 300 rupees, you don't mind not watching a channel. That does not mean I will only watch content which I want to see on a 5-inch screen. Yeah? It is always an add-on to the offering of in the entertainment space. See, all of us here, what are we trying to do? We are not trying to push one platform over the next or one platform over the other. All our endeavors is to increase the entertainment consumption in this country. If we are able to achieve that, then I think we are home. To answer you, advertising on digital, there are two aspects to it. One, it can be targeted, it can be, sliced and diced according to your audiences. Who do you want to speak to? Where do you want to speak to him? What do you want to speak to him? That cannot be achieved on traditional TV. On paper, we should be charging a premium, which we don't. That's a separate story because advertisers are yet to, wake up and accept this fact. And the scope to innovate in terms of how do you want to place your brand in a piece of content which you make is far more than what is available on TV.
Sunil, the scope for producing content, has OTT platforms provided new opportunities which were maybe not accessible to through TV broadcasters in producing content?
It's creating an entirely new ecosystem. If the question is whether OTT has helped production houses think out of the box, yes, it has. The art of writing 300 episodes or 500 episodes of half an hour each versus the science of writing a 90-minute movie versus a 15-episode OTT show. These are different skill sets. You ask a guy who writes a film script to write a 15-episoder, he'll die. If you try asking a director or a production house that does 500 episode show to make a 15 episode, the economics don't work. So this has led to us as content creators, platform owners, broadcasters, whatever, to look at the non-traditional. I mean, that is the reason why TVF was born in the first place, because the format was completely 5 episodes and you could do a whole bunch of things around that. And to be very honest, I mean, this is something which is open for interpretation, open to evolve over the next couple of years as to how content is going to get rewritten. And if that does not happen, I think this sad story of similar kind of content appearing on all platforms is going to continue. To answer Deepak, I mean, yes, it has opened up a lot more avenues in terms of thing, and there's an entirely new ecosystem that is getting created. Mansi earlier was talking about creating content. They have been creating new formats. There are new formats that exist. There are 1,000 stories that still need to be told and cannot be told over 500 episodes, should be told over 3 episodes probably. All of that is beginning to happen. There is one thing which the Netflix guys keep talking about, and this was thrown open a couple of weeks ago, a month ago probably. Netflix is not competing with other platforms. It's competing with sleep. That's a very important statement. It's competing with sleep. You know, if binge watch Narcos was you started watching at about 7 on a Saturday evening and didn't realize that it was 6 in the morning. And, then you needed to do everything else and also catch up on your sleep. That is OTT. Does it happen on television? I don't know. The format doesn't allow it to happen. Probably you guys can experiment in bringing one whole show available over a weekend. They already have been doing it over the weekends. It's going to keep evolving. I mean, this thali versus chicken Manchurian is going to go on forever. We just adding on here, probably piling on also, but 300 rupees on all channels available has spoiled us into believing that people don't pay for content. The fact is, people always have been paying for content. You go to a PVR, Juhu or wherever, you easily spend. One guy would end up spending some 800 rupees. And then we come back and say that, nahin, hum to content ke liye pay nahi karte hai. So that's something that one needs to think about.
Yeah. Yes, Abhishek.
See, the human need for any viewer or an audience to come on any platform, the basic human need is to get entertained. Yeah, that's the starting point of any viewer, any audience. You are providing an alternate screen for him to use his time well. If you can fight sleep with your piece of offering, then you are home. That's the...
Vivek, does it make sense to say that the cost of producing content is kind of being more accessible if you are actually showing your content or selling your content for OTT platforms as compared to TV platforms? In terms of cost of production, basically, does it cost less to produce for OTT platforms?
So I would say there are three types of content that exist in the ecosystem. A is user-generated content, which is I'm going in a local train, I'm doing a selfie video, and I'm putting on YouTube. I'm free to do that, and people watch it, right? That's one kind of content that's there on YouTube, which is primarily free content. The second is broadcast and good quality content produced professionally in a specific format done by the broadcasters. That's the good level of content. And there is a middle path, which is between user-generated content and the best quality content. I think the cost of production depends on the kind of money you can make on the platform. So TV allows me to kind of spend whatever 8-10 lakhs on an episode because I have a backing of an advertiser. I know that my slots are being sold and stuff. On digital, I don't have a distribution for somebody who's coming completely on OTT. I'm building distribution from ground up, right? I'm building my subscriber base on YouTube, or I'm putting up my app and building those installs. So therefore, the challenge is how do you monetize content, and the cost of production is obviously a factor of that. So sometimes it kind of forces us to think in very, very hard ways on when we are producing content. And as Sunil said, would a consumer pay for that content? And that's the dream for all OTT players, that eventually you are completely subscription-driven model like Netflix. Now in India, obviously situations are quite different. There are different kinds of people who have different capacity to pay, not pay for the content and stuff like that. So in that ecosystem, if you have to survive, I think you have to really think hard on the content you produced. And the cost has to be subsidized by brands, otherwise you can't survive. Or it has to be paid by subscribers. So when we kind of think of content, and we've been experimenting with some formats for kids, we try and think how we can bring some brands who are part of the show as integrated, and therefore a portion of content cost is subsidized. And then it gives us kind of a leverage to increase the cost of production, because everybody wants to produce good content. Nobody wants to produce cheap content. I mean, if there are no budget constraints, everybody would like to produce a Narcos or a Game of Thrones. But the problem is that we don't have those kind of budgets, and we don't have the brands who would pay for that kind of content. So therefore, it comes back to the whole challenge that in whatever money I'm getting, what can I produce? So I think that's how it goes.
Okay, before we pass on to the questions from the audience, I'll just request Shreyas to, regarding the cost aspect, if he has any comment on that.
So, I mean, it's a chicken and egg situation, right? So do you put out the kind of content that will drive a loyal audience, which is what Netflix has done over a period of time? Or do you, put the cart ahead and say, I will make content basis the money I will probably derive from the platform, and hence I can't spend more than 3 lakhs per episode. See, the fact of the matter is, the beauty of creating content for OTT is you can slice and dice it basis the narrative and the story. You're not compelled to fill in a strip Monday to Friday for 500 episodes over a period of time like you do on traditional TV and GC. So I would say, obviously, you would want to build a certain equity and a certain brand following for getting into a subscription model where you have people coming in. And like Sunil said, people have been paying for content all along. So it's not new. So if you tackle the right price points, stay invested and deliver good content, will that content be the same as that seen on TV? It's great to have the same content on OTT on a catch-up basis, fair enough. But if you want to build a subscription base and have audience come to you for who you stand as an alt, as an Amazon Prime or a Netflix, you will need to invest in content that is slightly ahead of the 2000 episode GC content. It will have to be 5 seasons of 10 hours each, hence those 50 episodes, because all of this leads back into our consumption patterns. We are moving into a binge zone. We do not want to wait for episodes to come out when they come out, right? I want to wait for the entire thing to be out, see together at my leisure and my time, and I mean, like whether it's Narcos 2 seasons coming out at one go, or if it's if it's your other pieces like Blacklist, which comes out on a week-on-week basis. So I would say you will need to spend slightly more on content, at least in the next 4 or 5 years, till this ecosystem reaches a certain stability on its subscription revenue and its ad sales revenue, and probably pick it from there.
Okay. So now I invite the audience. Yes, yes, please. Yeah.
This is something to live by or die by. I mean, it's very, very easy. It's far difficult to bring 1,000 people to a platform and earn 44 rupees. YouTubers, you know what I mean. It's easier to bring one guy and get him to pay 100 rupees. I mean, that's also another way of looking at it. The audience out there, you guys out there, do not differentiate between platforms. You want good content. So if I cannot put a disclaimer under my content saying that, yeah, I made it for OTT, hence I've got bad quality out there, the audience very quickly will abandon you. I mean, that's a fact. So this whole debate hinges on the fact that audience is intelligent, and I completely bow down to the audience, because they are far more smarter than any of us people out here. Not the people in this room. Those guys out there, those 100 million Geo users or the 800 million internet, they're far more smarter. They'll quickly abandon you, go to the next best thing. I mean, that is a fact, and that is something that we as platforms need to accept and stop, going around in circles saying that, I will make something for OTT. No, it's not. You're making content for an audience. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, please. So questions from the audience, kindly. Yeah.
This question is for anybody who wants to answer. What do you think that content on OTT platforms or digital should go through censoring? And the second thing is, I mean, I see a lot, which is a connected question actually, is what are the Indian players doing with regards to, considering that your audience is largely millennial, I have a 14-year-old and I wouldn't want her to see some of the shows that I've seen on Alt Balaji, for example. And I tried to actually do the kids blocking, but I had to subscribe, which means I can see 3 videos for free without subscribing. So if my daughter sees that.
Can I take it? Although you should answer this, but I'm glad you asked, because I think digital is a free medium, and obviously there's no censorship as of now. So I think it gives a responsibility on the content creator on what you're doing. And I was talking about kids content. There's a guy, a friend of mine, who came to me saying that my son watches Doraemon, and there was an episode where they show the kid is putting chewing gum in his ears and doesn't want to hear what his mom is saying, and his kid started doing that. So that's what content does to kids, and I think digital being a free medium, there are 2 choices. Either we empower the audience and create something meaningful, or we add BCMC languages and think that we're doing something cool. I think a lot of content creators are going that route, thinking that if we use the F word and stuff, it sounds cool, but I think if the content is not backed by a strong story, it just fizzles out. So.
In your case, it makes sense because you are dealing with children content, but the rest who are dealing with adult audiences as well.
See, let's face it, I mean, I'm again answering on behalf of everyone, and you also, because I'm also a father of 2 kids, 15 and 16. Fact of the matter is, if they want to access content which is not meant for them, they will. You can put everything in place to block that. Me, as a 16-year-old, my curiosity to watch porn content existed. I found my way to find my hands on a VHS tape and watch it, right? So you can put as many check gates out there, checkpoints, it's not going to stop them from watching it. What I see as a difference in the way I was a kid and my kids is that my kids are a lot more responsible, or kids these days, millennials, are a lot more responsible in knowing what is right and what is not, and skipping what is clearly not right. So I think it's fair to allow them discover this in the most natural way. As far as putting checks and balances or censorship on digital content, it's not about crying out about democracy of content, and hence, like he said, use the F word, that's cooler to use in digital. No, surely no. I mean, it's pointless to, again, drive the same, 80-year-old practice from cinema to television now to, build in out here. If content creators are cognizant enough of knowing what kind of content to put out there, See, all of the platforms have diversified content, right? On Netflix, I have 4 IDs. Now, the IDs ask what those age groups are, and they configure content according to that. There is data which is backing both sides, right from the kind of content I consume as a consumer to what the content, the OTT platform is throwing at me, you know, in both ways. So I don't think we should go down that route. I mean,
You know, I hope self-regulation does not happen. It's a dangerous path. We've seen what happened to television. I have colleagues here who know what happened to television. If you have beef getting blipped out of a recipe show, then we are staring up at a very dangerous trend. You know, we all probably there's a platform. IMAI might be a good platform to start discussing, debating on what should be done, what should not be done in terms of what's right and what's not right. I'm not going to sit in judgment about what is right and what is not right. If a 14-year-old wants to watch content, doesn't need to have parental control on alt, those 3 episodes are available on YouTube anyway. Piracy is a problem. It's available there. Porn, it's available there too. So it's a matter of how the sensibilities evolve. It's not. It's good storytelling. Edgy content is not not about cuss words. It's not about making fun of politicians. I think that phase is over last year. The next couple of years is where it's going to get defined. So yeah, I mean, if so, many your question is if self-regulation is necessary. I don't know. I'm scared of self-regulation.
Okay, any more questions? Yeah, is in front. Yeah.
Hi, good afternoon. This ties up a little bit with the monetization aspect, especially for an OTT platform. We've been talking a whole lot about using data and sort of communicating or customizing the sort of content one single user sees. Or so what I see on my OTT screen or whichever platform I'm on will be very different from, let's say, a Netflix or whatever. I'm just trying to understand if there's enough being done to really use that data meaningfully and really work, to sort of monetize or sort of make yourself more efficient or make the communication or content more targeted. Is that really happening, or is this just what we talk in conferences right now?
I'll take that.
Yeah, please.
See, the data mining has started, yeah, but the results to effectively use that piece of information is still some time. So what you are speaking about is recommendation engines, yeah, and it is machine learning which will take time for me to tell my advertiser, he is Abhishek Joshi, he lives here, he watches such and such content, he spends so many minutes, and he buys your products, or he does not buy your products. So a lot of platforms and a lot of analytics platforms have to tie in for me to be able to afford that to give to my advertiser. That's point number 1. Point number 2 is, see, the emergence of the digital platform was based on analytics because of the kind of deeper information that I can give. Now, according to me, that has become my biggest disadvantage, because every advertiser who comes on me demands performance. No brand, I can say that again, no brand is building a brand on digital. No one is doing it. They will build a brand offline. They will build a brand on TV, and when they want performance, they will come to us. So it is a double-edged sword, which all of us are trying to fight.
Okay.
Can I?
Yeah, please.
Okay. All does not have any advertising. It's not going to be there for some time. We've been looking at this problem of excessive amount of data from the other side, from the consumer standpoint. So it's been a month. We have about 2 billion data points that have been recorded. I think it's a little bit more. Rahul somewhere here can confirm that. So what we have been doing is looking at the data dispassionately, trying to understand. So if Somini has watched 3 episodes of Dev Double D and stopped and has gone away, I am reminding her that there is something interesting in the 5th episode. If somebody has stopped watching at the end of 2nd episode, we're dicing and slicing. We are communicating based on a whole bunch of things. We're communicating based on what kind of devices. Is an iPhone user a better, has an iPhone user a better consumer versus an Android user? I mean, that's big. We also seeing that a lot of content is moving away from mobile consumption. It starts at 7:30 in the morning, 9 o'clock commute time, it is on mobile, and then quickly moves to larger screens. That's again something that we are looking at. If someone has left an episode midways, can we remind? That's something that we are trying to do. So there's a whole volume of data that's being collected by everyone. I think chatbots, AI, neural networks, all of these are things that you're going to hear over a thing. Some of it is pure vaporware. Some of it is good technology. Technology is just an enabler.
Okay,
you guys are the guys
sorry.
who are the ones who want to decide if we succeed or not.
Let me take one more question, maybe. Okay, last question, yeah.
So we're talking about X number of platforms that are already up and running. So much content is being produced, so much money is being spent on content production, and then comes up on all these platforms. With the amount of money that is being spent, and monetization is still a big issue. When do we see monetization actually happening? When do we see the deep pockets actually materializing into something fruitful?
The best form of monetization that can happen is subscription monetization or subscription sub revenues, because that is validity to the fact that the content is appreciated and paid for by the consumer. And I think whether it's Alt, whether it's Netflix and the other OTT players, they are obviously chasing that as their primary revenue source, and rightly so. The other pieces, again, we've seen what's happening with ad revenues and inventory with YouTube, right? There is so much of inventory, the CPVs are dropping. Are YouTubers making money like they used to? I don't think so. I'm sure they are not. So I would say from a monetization point of view, the sweet spot would be the subscription revenues that we can drive. And with the Netflix sitting at a 90 million number globally, I'm sure India and China are huge markets for a lot of players internationally. And when you have local players like Alt, addressing a certain part of the market which is massive, I think it's only a question of the right price point and how we scale up to that.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think, as he said, subscription is the end goal for all the players. But I think before that, and again, I'm going back to the thali example, is that it's lunchtime now, I think. Basically, for a user in India, and I'm comparing very to India because it's very relevant here. A guy has to pay for bandwidth. A guy has to pay for several other things. For Wi-Fi also he pays, and then on top of it, we expect him to pay for content. Do we expect? Yes, obviously we want him to pay, but does he see that value? And that's where he compares it to TV. He says कि 500 रुपये में मुझे तो इतना सारा मिल रहा है. यहाँ पे मुझे whatever 400 rupees a month, I'm just getting 4 pieces of content. So there is obviously a class of people who would pay for that content because they are anyway switched off from TV. And these are the guys who are subscribing to Netflix. So they are paying, let's say, a month just to watch Game of Thrones, and then they may again cancel subscriptions. So that's where you see a lot of churn, where people come for specific things, they go away because they want only those things. They don't want the whole thing. But on TV, yes, they are okay to pay that because that's how they have been kind of conditioned. So I think the day internet kind of becomes free or it becomes really cheap, that's the day you will actually see a real competition between TV and OTT. And that's where the real content would stand out.
how long are we?
That is already happening. See, cord cutting in the US, where cable pay TV average rates are at $103 a month, cord cutting is happening big time in the West, where people are moving to $15 and $20 OTT platforms on big screens as well. Now, that will happen. See, even on YouTube, when the content is free, like you rightly said, it is not really free because he's paying for bandwidth. With Jio and with a whole host of bandwidth issues getting sorted in the next, and I would say near-term future of a year or 2 years, because even now the entire telco industry is in a complete revamp where data is available really cheap. And as per some statistics I was seeing some time back, an average data consumption per person is about 750 MB. Now, if that's true, it's only a matter of time when you optimize the OTT players to give out. You're not looking at 4K content on 5-inch screens. You're looking at basic SD, and that's good enough. And like I said earlier, if you put the right audio devices, you will enjoy the content a lot more. I mean, you put a great earphone, you will enjoy the content, right? So I don't think it's a question of
Okay, so we are going to maybe close this discussion on that aspect. We can actually keep on the discussion later on with the speakers. So just to be a little bit catch up on time. So thank you, Sunil. Thank you, Abhishek. Thank you, Vivek and Shreyas, for coming here and sharing your views. Okay, thank you very much.